Howdy peeps, and welcome to one more episode of Talking Paranormal with the Old Man. And as usual, I am the Old Man. Hope you're having a good weekend. Weather here is, up and down, 50s, 60s one day, 30s, 40s in the snow the other day. So spring's coming. Hopefully we get through this, you know, warm than cold, and it stays warm and it gets warmer. Even though I'm not really a big fan of hot weather, I don't do hot very well. Not too much going around here. I put up the sound deadening foam, I guess you'd call them. And I don't know if you can tell the difference on the podcast, but I can definitely tell the difference when I walk in my office. It's not as echoey, so hopefully I sound better. I don't know if that's possible, but it is what it is, as they say. All right, I do have I got a dash cam for my car. I'm going to try to put that in today. It's supposed to be in the 60s, but I don't know. It's like 49 degrees right now, so I don't know if that's going to happen. And it shouldn't be too hard to do. The video said it's easy to do, so we all know how easy to do on video is. It's going to take 4 or 5 hours and trips to the hardware store. But anyways, I'm going to try to do that this afternoon. So the title of this podcast, I'm going to try my hand at urban legends. There are a lot of urban legends wherever you're at. Each state has them. I know here in the great state of Michigan, we do have some urban legends. There was a list that I found, and I did do a Google search on them because due to what the wife says, I do not know everything. So I did have to do a Google search on urban legends in Michigan. There are a few that I am aware of. There are some that I had no idea existed. But that's what's good about urban legends is anybody can make up an urban legend. I can go outside and say there's an urban legend in my property that every full moon the ghost of the previous owners come up from the well to hell and haunt the house for a day. But I probably wouldn't do that because then I'd have every freaking paranormal investigating team here wanting to find her. But that's what an urban legend is. So some of the urban legends that I did find. Oh, before I do that, I'm kind of curious to see what happens today. If you've listened to the podcast 2 weeks ago, a picture frame fell that hasn't moved since I put him on my desk 3 weeks ago, and that came crashing down. Can't explain it. Last week, if you're listening or have listened, that crap with the like a man talking on my podcast. Okay, I'm the only one here, and I cannot explain that. I'm not using Wi-Fi transmitter. I'm not using a FM transmitter. All I have is a desktop. I have my soundboard into my above said desktop. I have my headphones into the soundboard. That's it. There's no wireless connections. There's no transmitter. There's no signal. So how the hell did I pick up someone's voice? It shouldn't be. To me, it is not possible. So we shall see. We shall see today if anything weird happens. If it does, great. If it doesn't, great. If you did hear the podcast last week and you did hear the voices, email me or put a comment on my page here what you think is being said. I don't know. It shouldn't be there in the first place, but I don't know what was being said. If you can pick up what's being said, if you can isolate that man's voice, I have been told that it sounded like some churchy group or some churchy radio station, which is fine. I mean, if you're into religion, more power to you. I am not a very religious man, which I know sounds kind of odd because doing what we do, you would think that the prayers that we say and all this kind of stuff, I would be a very religious man, but I wasn't, brought up that way. We didn't have religion in our house until after I moved out, and my mom found God, and she actually went out and bought a church. But crazy is crazy does. So, in ways, if you can, isolate the voices from last week, not my voice, but the voice that was like under mine, send me an email or send me something that, if you can isolate it. So, anyways, some of the urban legends that I have found on Google, because I'm not going to touch on all of them because I don't know all of them, and I would be talking out my rear end if I go, oh yeah, blah blah. So I'm not going to do that. I do have a couple of urban legends on my own that we have here in Michigan that I am aware of that we've actually been to. So I will add those on there at the end. So the one I guess that I have heard of is there's a legend, and I think he's down in the Detroit-ish area, and he is the Dog Man. Yeah, I have heard of that. Uh, there's and I'm going to slaughter this freaking name here. Bet Grease Singing Sands. Don't know what that is. Old Presque Isle Lighthouse. No idea what that is. The Le Griffon Shipwreck. No idea what that is. The Ada Witch. I have heard the Ada Witch urban legend. Don't know too much about it, but like I said, I don't know too much about it. That's basically what I can say. There's a pig lady. I'm not going to mention all of these. The snake goddess of Belle Isle. No idea. The dungeon or Dungeon swamp. No idea. No idea. Cryberry Bridge. No idea. Urban legend. That sounds, that is a, there's somebody that make that's just make an urban legend. What are we going to name the urban legend? I know, horrible hog. That sounds like that could be. Maybe not. I don't know. It's I don't know. Anyways, so the one that I have heard of is the Paulding Light, and that's up in the UP of Michigan. It's about no, it's about 5 hours, I think it was, outside of Mackinac Bridge. And if you heard that one song from Bob Seger, he was what 3 hours out of Mackinac City or 4 hours out of Mackinac City, whatever it was. No, 12 hours out of Mackinac City. See, if I'm going to quote a song, I should probably learn the freaking lyrics and know what it is. But that's just how I roll. That is 12 hours out of Mackinac City. Well, this is only 5 hours out of Mackinac City. It's in the middle of nowhere. There is a town called Paulding, and again, it's in the middle of nowhere. Trees and open land up there. And the urban legend, I have not been up there. I want to. I don't want to say it's on any kind of list that I have, because I really don't make lists. I just, go with the flow kind of thing. But I have read about it because we have thought about one up there. And basically, it's like a light that appears at random. There's no, rhyme or reason, time frame, season, or anything that it happens. And there have been used to be a TV show. It was called oh god, Paranormal Fact or Fiction. I want to believe is the name of the song of the TV show, and people would write in. Okay, that is a car outside. We live not in the hood, I guess you would say, but we get that a lot, like loud cars, the boom, 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 from the stereos and shit. So that was a car. That was not paranormal. That was just a car with a loud exhaust. Get it fixed. Get a job. Get it fixed. And if you know where I got that from, salute to you. So, anyways, the Paulding Light is a light, and that TV show, Paranormal Fact or Fiction, what you would do is viewers would write in, email, whatever, to that TV show with possible places that they can go and investigate. And that was one of them. So they went up there with all their, their equipment and all that kind of stuff. But of course, they're experts. They're paranormal experts. They've been doing this for 2 years, but they're experts. Don't get me going on paranormal experts. I could be here all day about that. It irritates the hell out of me. Oh, you're a paranormal. How long have you been doing this? 2 years, but I am an expert. Okay, rant over. So basically, the light will show, and it will come down this, or just appear. And they did all their tests, and they thought maybe it was the swamp gas was reflecting lights. They thought maybe it was car lights from the road over where they shows up at. And if I remember correctly, they could not identify what it was. So they could not identify it as being either fact or fiction. It was unsolved. So if you're ever up in that area, by all means, head up there and see if you can find anything. Now, one of the ones that I know that we have here close to us is there's a graveyard in Lanesburg, and it is ominously named Blood Cemetery. See, that was my scary voice. And Blood Cemetery, even though it sounds ominous, it's like, ew, Blood Cemetery. It's got to be freaky deaky and stuff. It's not. It's not. It's a small graveyard, and the reason why it's called Blood Cemetery is because there was, believe it or not, and you can't make this shit up, a Dr. Blood that practiced in Lanesburg and the surrounding areas. Like I said, you can't make this up. And one of the main monuments there is of the Blood family. All of his family is buried in Blood Cemetery. So that's why it got the name Blood Cemetery. Not because blood's seeping from the ground or blood's coming from the tombstones. It's Blood Cemetery because of Dr. Blood. But can you imagine having a name of well, for one thing, being a doctor, then having the doctor of Dr. Blood. Okay, yes, sir, Dr. Blood can see you now. What? Why has he Dr. Blood? So, anyways, and the urban legend is when I was growing up, and this would have been in the 70s and the 80s, growing up, there was this urban legend of Blood Cemetery. And the urban legend was, like around here, not so much in Lansing, where I'm, living now, but over by Lanesburg, which if you're, familiar with, mid-Michigan, Lanesburg, DeWitt, St. John's, even for that matter. There's not much to do on a Saturday freaking night. If you're a kid, there's more now, but back then, back in the in the actual days, there's not much to freaking do. So the urban legend is that a set of or a teenagers that they were friends, and if I remember correctly, there was like two girls and two guys, or three girls and two guys, whatever. They drove over to Blood Cemetery and decided to, drink and, in a cemetery. Which, more power to you, if that's your thing, knock yourself out. So they drove into the actual graveyard, and they parked. So they were, drinking and having fun, making jokes, laughing, all that kind of stuff. Well, supposedly one of the teenagers, he heard what he said sounded like a growl. Something like that. And they all looked and said, they looked and they didn't see anything, around them. So they kept on drinking and stuff, and then they heard it again. And they're like, what the hell is this? And one of them looked to the right of the car, and there was a set of red eyes, glowing eyes. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. It's a demon, right? It has to be a demon if it's growling and it has red eyes. It has to be a demon. So at this point, they're like all kind of freaked out and stuff, So it's like, okay, we're out of here. They heard it growling again. They're out of here. Like, let's get the freak out of here. We're bailing. See you later, alligator. Well, or so they thought. So they all get in the car, And they start the car up and they start driving away. The car wouldn't move, dude. The car, they're sitting there spinning their tires. The RPMs are going, but they're not moving a freaking inch. Something grabbed onto their car and would not let them freaking go. Scary shit, right? So finally, either too much torque, too much horsepower in this car, and the thing couldn't hold them back. So the car screeches out of the graveyard, takes a left, the following road takes a left, heads down to, I think it's Allward Road. Yeah, it's Allward Road, and they're going really freaking fast, man. They're going like 80 miles an hour, and they look behind them and they see this creature from the blood cemetery still following them. It's like flying behind them. Okay, red beady eyes and stuff. So it's chasing them down this freaking road. Well, at this point they're heading west. Okay, so they're heading west and stuff, and they're heading west, and they're doing all these different back roads, and they come up to, I think it's Round Lake Road. And when Round Lake Road comes up to 127, there's a stoplight. Well, they blew the stoplight because they're trying to escape this demon creature thing that they saw. And an 18-wheeler T-bones them. Boom. Okay? Kills all of them but one. And that's how this urban legend is supposedly was found out. Was when the police went to the hospital to interview the last survivor, or I'm sorry, the only surviving teenager in this car. That's when she told them what happened. Well, unfortunately, she died shortly thereafter. So we don't know if this was, a bunch of BS or if it did really happen. But like most urban legends, it's lived on, and this has been retold over the years. And every time, something else changes, something else is added. Now it's a, flying whatever. So that's the urban legend around here. Now, I don't want to like be the bad guy that has to be like, take a story and say that's a bunch of BS. However, there are some holes in the story that I would like to fill in. Okay? The first hole I would like to fill in is that they drove into the cemetery. Nah, can't happen. There's a wrought iron fence all the way around Blood Cemetery. So that's the first nah. The other one is there's no place, even if the wrought iron fence was not there, there's no driveway into Blood Cemetery, because if you've ever been there, it's a small it's small. Okay, it's not very big in size, and it's not possible to drive into it because there's no roads into it. You park on the road in front, and you walk into Blood Cemetery. So there's two things that don't sound right, because of that. And again, I mean, I know what people are saying. Okay, well, dude, we're talking, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Who's this to say that the wrought iron fence wasn't put up after this happened to maybe keep people out? Which is a good point, and a fair point. But I don't think it is because there's no roads into Blood Cemetery. It's there's not. I don't think there ever was. So that was our experience. So that was the urban legend of Blood Cemetery. Now we have been there a few times. We were there with Fox 47 TV. Did an interview there 2 years ago in the freaking rain. It didn't rain the whole freaking week until the 2 days before Halloween when we were doing the interview. It rained. Surprise, surprise. It happens all the time. So Murphy's Law, I think it is. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong, and it did. So we have been there a few times, and Again, just because we don't experience anything does not mean that there isn't anything there to experience. It's just, it is, either it's active or it's not. In the times that we have been there, we have gotten a few things, not anything, no glowing red eyes or anything. We haven't seen any growling or anything. So I'm not for sure, it could be an urban legend, it could be true. Now there's one other urban legend that is a part of Blood Cemetery. Okay, supposedly, well, this this part's true. There is a farm, or actually a farmhouse with a barn right next. It's directly to the west of Blood Cemetery. Okay, excuse me, I'm all choked up talking about it. And the urban legend is that some dude, and I don't think it was a Dr. Blood, but some dude found out his wife was cheating on him. So he killed her at this farm, house, barn thing, property, and supposedly not every night, but occasionally when the conditions are right, you can see this woman. She's dressed in a white dress, and she walks from the barn, which is, like I said, just to the west of Blood Cemetery, and you can see her walking through the cemetery, and she is called the Lady in White. Now I don't like I said, I did a Google search on urban legends, and that was not there, but I remember hearing that growing up. And the other urban legend that is also associated with Blood Cemetery is in this same farmhouse in the barn, a teenager hung himself. And when he hung himself, I don't remember what exactly he did. He cursed the land or something. I don't know. So he hung himself in this actual barn. Again, urban legend. I don't know if it's true or not. And he supposedly now you'll see the spirit of this boy. And I believe he was like a teenager. So you'll see the spirit of this teenager who hung himself. He also has been seen walking from the barn into the property of Blood Cemetery. I know, freaky, right? So there's at least three stories with one cemetery. Okay? Believe it or not. Now, there is one other place that we have investigated, and this is down by Jackson, and it's called Reynolds Cemetery. Again, in my freaky voice. Well, the urban legend behind this is half true, half urban legend. So there was this family, and I believe it was the White family. I do believe I didn't look this up. This is from memory, and this really happened. A family was killed. A family, a daughter, well, is a husband, a wife, a daughter, her husband, and I want to say one other person was killed in this house. Still unsolved, as far as I know. Still unsolved, and actually in my last book that's published, at least, Haunted Michigan Graveyards, I do touch on this. So if you want to get more information, get the book, get a good book, and read it, please, because it is a good book. So we went there, and there's actually in this one graveyard in Jackson is where the daughter and her husband is interred, buried, and her father is buried in Reynolds Cemetery outside of Jackson. So supposedly on, I think it's Thanksgiving Eve, because I think they were killed on Thanksgiving Eve. Supposedly the spirit of the daughter travels from the cemetery in Jackson where she's buried to Reynolds Cemetery outside of Jackson. And there have been reports of people seeing like a white mist, coming across the road to her dad's grave, and they supposedly meet back up. man, it's gotten so bad that they're actually that well, we always ask permission to do, investigations in graveyards just because it's easier to explain, to the cops if they show up. Well, we have permission, sir. Otherwise it's trespassing. They can, issue a fine. We don't want to, deal with any of that kind of stuff. It has gotten so bad at Reynolds that they will not give you permission to investigate anymore. And on Christmas Eve, I'm thinking Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving Eve, there's usually or at least there was a couple years ago, pre-COVID, there was a heavy police presence to try to deter the paranormal investigators, which is us. And if you're listening to my podcast, you guys probably have an interest too, from investigating and causing trouble. Now, the road that Reynolds is on Thanksgiving Eve routinely gets not cluttered, but clogged. I guess the word I'm trying to think of, clogged with cars of paranormal investigators. Well, it does create a safety hazard because it's just a two-lane road in the country-ish, so there's a problem with that. So there's actually a heavy police presence on Christmas. Why do I always want to say Christmas Eve? I don't know why I want to say Christmas Eve. It's Christmas. I'm sorry. It's Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving Eve. There's always a heavy police presence, or at least there was at one time. I don't know if the hype has quieted down a little bit, but there was a hype there about that. And we have been there. Well, I've been there once for an investigation, and Reynolds Cemetery is really freaking small. If you've ever been to Blood Cemetery, you will think that that one is humongous compared to Reynolds, because Reynolds is a small graveyard, really, really, really small. You can't drive into it. There's a gate. You walk through the gate. There's a sign that says, open from dusk until dawn, or dawn to dusk, whatever. I always get those mixed up. So basically, as soon as it starts getting dark until the sun comes up the following day, the graveyard or the cemetery is closed. Heed it and read it. Otherwise, you might get a ticket for trespassing. Now, the last one that I want to cover is, and again, if you're familiar with mid-Michigan area, there's a urban legend of the Seven Gables Road. And that is it's over by a small town called Dansville. And supposedly, and we actually went there, not there, but to the spot where it turns into a state-owned property. There's a big-ass gate that opens and closes that I don't think you can drive into, but you can park and walk, if I remember correctly. So like I said, we haven't investigated it. We have been there one time when I was researching other graveyards for my last book. If I didn't mention it already, Haunted Michigan Graveyards. And it can be found any place, if I haven't mentioned that. Barnes & Noble, online. Yeah. So, the urban legend about that is there, at one time, and I think this was the 1800s, I do believe. Like I said, I haven't researched that one too much, but there was a old woman who lived on the property, and she supposedly was being accused of being a witch. Yeah, you heard me correctly, being a witch. Just lucky she wasn't in Salem, because she would have been burned at the stake, which was a mistake. See how I state mistake? I'm clever. Okay, focus, back on track. Okay, so supposedly she was a witch, practiced witchcraft, and for whatever reason she cursed the land that her house was on, which was, if I haven't mentioned it before, the Seven Gables Road. And then there's if there at least there was a fence or is a fence. Haven't been there, like I said, and there's a gate. And the urban legend goes is that the last person, I think it was the last person, or was it the first person? The last person to cross over that fence would die. So if you're, lagging behind and you're the last person to leave by going over the gate, you are the first to die. And I'm sorry to have to inform you that, but you are the first to die. And then, supposedly 20 years later, some other family moves into this house that this witch cursed with all of her might. And he went batshit crazy, and he killed his whole family. Now you would think that if that happened, and it might very well have happened, but you would think that it would be like in the newspapers or on the news. Now, of course, I'm not for sure when this happened. It could have been in the 1800s, could have been the 1900s. I have no idea. All I do know is it was not the 2000s. That I can pretty much guarantee you that. That you would think that there would be some kind of news stories and there very well could be. Like I said, there might be. I don't know. I haven't researched it yet. So that is this podcast of urban legends. So I can cross this off my list because what I do is I have a list. The wife suggested this, so I have these like 3x5 note cards or whatever they're called. So when I have an idea, I write it down because otherwise I will forget because I am an old man and I will forget. So that's it for Urban Legends. I hope you enjoyed it. And on a related note, we do have permission to be in Bath on May 17th, a Saturday, from 8 until midnight to do investigation at the old school that was blown up back in the 1900s. And it's just a park now, but that small little park has a lot of history, and we always have activity. I shouldn't say always, but generally we do. And then there's a graveyard in town, just maybe about half a mile away, that we go there too. And a couple of years ago, after a investigation, someone had gotten scratched there, and we had gotten some glowing lights that you can only see on camera, not with your eyes. So that's coming up. That has been officially okie dokied. And like I said, it's May 17th from 8 o'clock until midnight. Now, I will be there an hour early, or me and the wife will be there an hour early to, if you're interested in to hear this, if you don't know the story, because it's more than just he did it, he blew the school up, that's it. It goes a lot more deeper than that. So I will be there an hour early so I don't get into the time for the investigation explaining the who's, the what's, the why's, and the where. And Bath is unique because of two things. We know what happened. Well, actually, three things. We know what happened. We know when it happened. And we know the characters involved. And I guess there's a fourth one. We know who was killed there. And a lot of sites that paranormal investigators do for investigations, you don't know a lot about the site. Yeah, you can do research and stuff, but Bath is a different investigation because we know pretty much, what happened, the who's, the what's, the where's, and the why's. So again, we have been confirmed for Bath. It's official. We've been okayed. The police department is aware. So even though we do get permission for Bath every year, we have not had one police officer ever come by and say, "Hey, what you guys doing?" Um, Last time that we were there, we did have someone that lives in the apartments across from the actual graveyard that we will go to after, the park. and he was sitting there bitching about how, oh no, it wasn't the investigation. I'm sorry. It was the interview that we were doing with Fox 47 TV. This was 2 years ago in the graveyard in Bath, and and oh my God, the lights from the camera from Fox 47's camera was bothering the people across the street. And this dude comes over like he's, badass guy. He's like, "Oh, you're not supposed to be here. The lights are bothering the people across the street." And I'm like, "Dude, one, it's a public place, and two, we have permission from the Bath Police Department. If you want to, and the Bath Police Department is right next door to the freaking graveyard. If you want to walk over there with me right now, you will see that we have permission." And there was like, a pause, and he puts his head down and did the walk of shame back to his apartment. Yeah, don't mess with me, homie. I'll mess you up. So, anyways, we do have permission. Again, May 17th from 8 until midnight. If you want to learn more of it, I'll be there an hour early. And I can tell you, I have books with pictures. I have the coroner's inquest. And I'm not, like, I hate, if you know me, I hate the word expert. Like, he's a paranormal expert, okay? I don't claim to know everything about Bath, but I do know a lot about Bath because I have read the books, I have read the coroner's inquest, and I know quite a bit about Bath. Am I an expert on Bath? Hell to the no. I have no idea. I don't know everything about Bath, but I do know quite a bit. So I can tell you, what happened and the people involved, all that stuff. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. So, as usual on these podcasts, until we meet again, definitely stay away from the light. And again, until we meet again, bye bye.